Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to season two, episode 10 of Sipping Tea with Stacy T. I'm Stacy. How you doing? Good afternoon. Man, we're already rolling. We're shaking and rolling, and we are now in March. I can't believe it. The year to me just started, and now we are already in the month of March, and it is something else. The weather has been all over the place. We're just moving. I think that it's supposed to be warm this week, so we'll see what that really means. But then I saw something about storms. It's still winter. It's New England. It is what it is. But I hope that you are doing well wherever you are. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that has been something that I feel like a lot of people, when they're on a healing journey, avoid. And it's not going to be something that I avoid. I think it's an important conversation to have. And so, this is where we are. Today, we're going to be talking about what happens when you're on your healing journey and it feels like your actual dreams will not come true. They will not happen for you. It is an important subject because, again, I get that a lot of times on a healing journey, people want to talk about the positives. They want to think about, you know, um, specific things, and they don't want to kind of concentrate on others. And I understand that. I fully get that. But I do think that it is necessary to have a conversation. Hey, Kathy, how you doing? Hey, Cheryl, good afternoon. I think it is important to actually have these conversations. So here we go. But before we get there, it is indeed sipping tea with Stacy T. So what is today's tea? It is English afternoon tea. English afternoon tea from Twinings. I don't know what's going to be the difference. English breakfast tea is very common, had it many, many times over. So let's see what the difference is between breakfast and afternoon tea. On the back, it just gives the same general instructions, so there's nothing different about it. It is a black tea, so, here we go. I'm going to open it up. So again, it's English afternoon tea from Twinings, one of the brands that I've used very, very often, as you guys can imagine. Same, there's nothing different. I'm curious about the scent of it. Hmm. So the scent of it, I mean, and maybe I'm just imagining it because I'm like, what is the difference? It smells a little sweeter. Like it doesn't smell as, yeah, it does. It smells either not necessarily sweeter, maybe lighter is the right thing. Hey Tiffany, it smells lighter in its scent. So let's see what that translates to. I'm gonna steep it real quick. All right, get some of that in there. It's less bold. Okay, I appreciate that. Look at that. It's good to have somebody with this knowledge. So it is. So it is interesting because the hot water, I purposely, when I pour it in, I purposely pour it right over the bag, and so the water did get brown, but I think to the point that Cheryl just made, it didn't get as dark as initially the other tea bags got. So I just moved it around a little bit, and I am seeing it get dark as normal. But yeah, you're right. The smell of it is less bold, so I'm curious about the flavor, but I'm going to give that a moment because it did say 3 to 4 minutes, unlike the other bag, which was like 9 minutes. So 3 to 4 minutes. So let's get into this. First of all, hopefully you all are doing well. Um, how is the first quarter of the year going for y'all? Because this is quarter one, right? Um, we're 3 months in, well, 2 months and a week into the year, and I think a lot of times at the beginning of the year, people amazing. Okay, I love amazing. I feel like the first quarter of a year, people start kind of readjusting a little bit, and I say that because oftentimes people make these resolutions of this is what my year is going to be like, and new year, new me, blah blah blah, right? And I'm not blah blah blahing to minimize it, but I'm just saying I feel like oftentimes that's how people begin their year. So um, and I've done the same thing, right? Had these ideas about what I want to do in the year, maybe where I want to travel, what types of events I want to do, what opportunities, all that stuff, right? So I think that that's very normal, but I think that it's also very real that a lot of times people will have these initial, it's been busy. I bet. I think initially, oftentimes people will have these plans for their year, and then their year kind of pivots from exactly what they thought it might be, and that's also okay. That is also okay. What I will say is sometimes it's hard to rebound from what you envisioned a time frame to be. Um, and that's kind of leads into what I'm going to be talking about today, because I'm going to tell you that, first of all, when I started the whole healing journey thing, um, it was in part of just me feeling in my life like, God, there needs to be more. There has to be more than what I'm experiencing in my life. And I was also kind of in a space of feeling stuck, right? Feeling stuck, feeling like there needs to be more, something to that effect. And so I started on my healing journey. And I will say that initially I had so much energy about my healing journey. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm really paying attention to things that I've been through, things that I've managed. Um, uh, Kind of, areas of my life where I have seen change, areas of my life where I know I need to change or grow or rebuild. So that was really kind of the way that I walked into it. And I was very proud of myself, I have to say. And I think oftentimes we don't stop and say moments where we feel proud of ourselves in a certain area. I was proud about how my healing journey started. I feel like I had, like I said, I had good energy. I had the right amount of support. I won't say I had as much support as I thought I would have, which is an entirely different thing. But I feel like I had the right support, and that's important because your healing journey can be tough, and you definitely, for me, I'm not going to say for you what you might need, but for me, I really felt like to be able to manage my healing journey, I needed people to be able to like get behind how I was doing it, what I was doing, give me grace. Um, that type of a thing, right? And so I did have a good amount. Well, I had the right amount. I won't say a good amount. I had the right amount that God saw necessary for me to have for me to continue on. But as you all know, my healing journey took a major pivot towards the last part of the year, towards the fall, and when that happened, it happened. So it wasn't something that I could change or something that I had control over. It was something that just had an impact on me, and I had to kind of take in how I was feeling about it. But I will tell you that in part, I felt the initial feeling, like I've said to you all before, was a gut punch. Then I kind of went into um, an okay, well, this is my reality. And then I went into a feeling of numbness for a while. Not to say that that was a bad thing. I think that oftentimes people want you to. They're like, "Oh, you need to feel all the feelings," and I get it, right? I get it because people are maybe worried about you. They don't want you to go down this dark path, and so they're kind of like, "Okay, I need you to get it out, scream if you need to, punch a wall, go to a rage room," which I still want to go to. I still want to smash, um, computer parts and vases against the wall and all the things, right? So I still want to do that. Um, but the for me, the thing that I was sensing or feeling or experiencing was that I felt nothing for a good chunk of time. But I think that the thing that was very helpful and that was different than the first time that I had a major breakup and went into a dark space for a very long period of time. This chunk of time, one, I had a different relationship with God during this period of time, and two, I feel like God was like, "We ain't doing that. Like, we're not doing that. You can have your moment. I'm gonna let you sit in your space that you need to sit in to absorb it." Because honestly, I feel like the reason why I went into like a feeling of numbness was I think that I went into shock because I think most people when they have if you have a surgery, a major surgery, if anybody in you, any of you have had a surgery, your body before the surgery, sometimes if you're in a lot of pain, goes into shock, but also goes into like this shock feeling after, almost this atrophy where your body's not functioning in the way that it needs to do what you want it to do. So I feel like that's kind of what I went into. And there were a variety of reasons. One of the reasons was that I really had felt like um, I really felt like I had cried out to God for a long time to be married, right, to have a husband and to have that whole situation. And I feel like I dedicated 4 years of my life to this relationship, and then I felt like, okay, I dedicated 4 years of my life. God, are we like on bad terms or something? Because on some real stuff, y'all. I was like, you could have done this after a year, God. You didn't need to have me have 4 years, like 4 years in, all the things, right? And I know some people don't have these types of conversations, but you're getting the real and transparent space of how I was feeling. And, so for me, it was very hard because I felt like if you've ever wanted something very much so, right? If you really wanted something deeply and fully and completely, and you feel like God has finally given you your thing, and then it felt like, for me, it felt like I got a carrot dangled in front of me and then it got ripped away. So that was very, very challenging. Um, and what I will say is that it really did make me question a lot. So I'm going to talk to you about, like I said, the title of today is When Healing Makes You Feel Like Your Dreams Won't Happen. And I know oftentimes when people do talk about healing, I'm talking about different people. When they talk about healing, oftentimes you hear them talking about, like, you know, everything happens for a reason. Let's journal, da 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 da. Let's go on a hike. First of all, I'm not hiking. We're not doing that, right? If you want to, that's fantastic. You do you. But I've done a hike before. Okay. I like seeing I like seeing nature from a beach chair. That is where I most, or like even sitting by a river or something like that on a bench. But hiking, no, not so much. Not that interested in doing anything like that. So I'm gonna be talking to you about a variety of different things that when I was really preparing, and I did this as a lesson yesterday, but I knew as soon as I wrote it down that it was going to be the lesson for today as well. So sometimes healing makes you feel like your dreams are slipping away. And I feel like that was a very real thing. Why? Because, and it leans into one of the other ones about timeline and things like that. So, many, many years ago, I had said to God, I really want to get married before a specific age, right? There was a very specific age that I want to get married before. And I said that because, not because of the age in itself, but it was more so about me wanting to have been married for a long time and be able to enjoy being a married woman and enjoy raising family and having that connection and doing purpose and kingdom work and all the things. So that was the intention and the why behind me wanting that thing. And so when I met him and I felt like I had that as as a reality, and then it was yanked away, and for all the right reasons. I'm glad that God yanked me, right? I'm not sitting here and mad at God for yanking me from a situation that was not going to be advantageous to me. But the reality still sat with me that I'm like, God, you won. And these are honest conversations. So if you feel uncomfortable about me questioning God, then this is not going to be the podcast episode for you. I'm just going to tell you. But I was like, God, you didn't think that it would have been cool for you to like tell me year 1 or even year 2, but you waited till year 4. So what that for me was hard is because of my dream, right? That timeline that I was just telling you about. Because what it did is it pushed back. Um, it took years out of me being able to get to know someone, and years for me spending time with the person that's going to be my person, and all of that. So that makes it very, very challenging, right? And I believe you, me and God have had some really pointed conversations. I was gonna say knock down, drag outs, but like, who am I? I'm knocking out God. Like, let's be real. There's no knocking him out. But I've 100% had very real conversations about the hurt surrounding the time being taken from me, the hurt surrounding years of dedication, not just for me but for my family. So it was very, 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 very painful, very, very painful. And I don't think that people talk about the pain. Like, yes, I'm a crier. Everybody knows me, knows that I'm a crier. You're probably hearing me fighting tears right now because I am. But what I will say is that it is hard when you have worked for, thought about, prayed about, sat in, sometimes consecration about, other people have prayed for you for this thing, and it feels like you have it, and then it's gone. So, what is the process of when you're healing and you know that God does all things in decency and order? You know that He does all things for your good, but nothing about that situation feels good, right? Um, it is painful. It is exhausting. It does feel defeating. It does feel, um, it does feel hard. Like there's no other way for me to say it than that, right? And the reality that, and this is the thing that I will also say, right? When you're in a space that you are trying to manage past a very painful current situation, because oftentimes when people talk about healing, they talk about it in terms of what they've been through in their past. Healing happens in the present as well, because affliction or pain doesn't like just happen as a kid. It doesn't just happen as a teenager when maybe you're bullied or picked on, right? It happens throughout the entirety of your life. Situations will continue to come, some of which, um, you know, some of which are hard. And I think that oftentimes, because you're a person that is strong, because you're a person that is just like, okay, well, it is what it is, and I have to keep going. Sometimes people forget you're still in a very real healing space. Sorry. Sometimes people forget that because you don't talk about it all the time. You don't talk about it all the time. You try to laugh instead of cry very often. But the reality still remains. You're in a healing space, right? You're in this space, one that you didn't choose for yourself, one that you can't just, do something to pass by. You have to sit in the space. Now, one thing that is interesting is sometimes, y'all, sorry, I have something in my eye. One thing that you'll recognize very often is people are uncomfortable around people that are in pain, right? And so, more often than not, what will happen is somebody will try to say something or do something to, say, well, at least you know now, or at least you deserve better, or I had somebody say good when I told them that the relationship was over. What I will say is this, y'all. Sometimes that is the entirely wrong thing to do, right? The entirely wrong thing to try to rationalize something that is an emotional experience, right? Yes, it is also a rational experience, but it is an emotional experience, right? Me having something that I thought that I was going to have for a lifetime being taken from me is not just an experience of, oh well, I get it, it was for my good, but it's an emotional experience, and somebody needs to sometimes sit in that. And I get it. It feels uncomfortable to see somebody in a bad space. Your intention is not even to be harmful. But I'm just going to tell you, just telling somebody good or telling someone, you know, um, you deserve better. Yes, I may understand that in that moment, or I may understand that later. But in that moment, sometimes all I need is for you to say something to the effect of, and I'm not saying just for me now, because people have said what they've said at this point, and I've adjusted and managed and processed as much as I can. But I'm just wanting for all of you to think about when somebody comes to you in the future and potentially says something to you about what they're managing. An easier thing would be, tell me anything you need to tell me right now, right? Instead of saying, girl, you deserve better, you're going to find your person, just wait on God. Y'all, when I've said I've heard all of those things a million times over, and I have been. And sometimes it gets to the point that literally when somebody says it to you, you want to square up and box somebody in the face. I'm just going to be honest, right? Just wait on God. Just wait on the Lord will provide. Y'all, I know that. And I trust that He will. But you saying it to me in a moment of pain is not it. That's not it. What that is I don't know what to say to you. And I'm going to say something to you that I've heard people say a million times over, but it's not taken into account that my heart was broken, right? Like that's the legitimate of it. My heart was broken, right? So sometimes, and again, yes, I get it. I get the why. I understand the why. I'm grateful for God saying that, Stacy, I know that you're a person that is a loyal person, so you may never leave. Even if you know this person is not good for you, even if you know that this person is doesn't deserve to be with you because the person's a whole liar, right? So even though you know these things, you probably would still try to rationalize, okay, well, let me just try to work with him. Maybe this is a season for him, and da 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 da. Like, that's who you are, right? You work with people through their stuff, even at your own detriment, right? That's it. That's how you are. That's how you function. But the reality is, God knew that that was not for you in that time, and so He removed you from it. It's just kind of like if you've ever had lost a loved one and people are so awkward and they're like, so sorry for your loss. Da, 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 da. They're saying all the most, and after a while, it gets on your nerves. It's not that people are saying it to be mean. So I'm not taking it in as people are trying to be mean. It's more that people are awkward and don't necessarily know the right thing to say and don't recognize that sometimes it's not about saying anything other than, Stacy, I'm here, or Cheryl, I'm here, or Kathy, I'm here, or Tiffany, I'm here. It's not more than that. It's just literally saying, I'm here in this moment. Tell me what you need to tell me. Get off your chest what you need to get off your chest, as opposed to saying, things that, I get it, are supposed to try to energize and rally the crowd, but it doesn't do that. In that moment, all I'm thinking is, dag, I had this dream and I sowed so much time and energy and love into this dream, and now the dream is gone. It's dead. It's not to say that God is not going to supply somebody, but that dream, the way that it was shaped and formed, and the time, and that dream is dead. So what then is it that you do in that moment, right? It's always the negative Sally's in the group. there are sometimes negative Sally's, but there's also awkward Annies in the group, right? There's there, and I often try to assume that people are trying to build your spirit, right? I understand that seeing somebody that you care about hurt is not it, right? Nobody wants to see that. But at the end of the day, y'all, hurt is a thing. And people need to feel all the feelings. Too much is spent on not letting people feel what they need to feel, right? Oh, stop crying. Don't cry. Don't cry. You're a big girl. You're a big girl. It's the immediate need to not let somebody feel what they're feeling. And I get it. You don't want somebody to sit in their tears for 10 years. I understand that. But there's this weird thing that happens with us that we're like, oh, let me satiate, let me calm, let me calm, let me calm, let me soothe, right? But there's a need to be able to emotionally regulate. There's a need to process through your emotions. And unfortunately, so many adults don't have that capability because throughout life, you're trained to try to get the baby to stop crying. Now, granted, I get it, that's annoying. So at some point, you do want the baby to stop crying. But you also have the group of people that are like, that baby needs to cry a little bit because they need to, one, build up their lungs. There's a purpose. The crying actually builds up your lungs, your voice, your lung resistance, all that stuff, right? But also, it's a way that the baby will sometimes learn how to they're fussy, okay? They learn how to regulate themselves. They learn how to regulate. That's the earliest sign of self-regulation. But unfortunately, sometimes for us, it gets annoying. So we're like, nah, we're gonna handle this real quick. All right, y'all. I'm gonna try this tea, which is probably now cold because I have been talking for too long. Okay, I think it was Cheryl that said this, it not being bold. Y'all, when I say Twinings, I love you. I love y'all. I do. I love y'all. But this tea to me has zero flavor. Like, I taste nothing. I don't taste the tea leaf. I don't taste the. So maybe this is for like the non tea drinkers tea. I don't taste anything. in here. It is the oddest thing to like. I mean, it's like a hint of tea, a hint of tea in there. So I just put some of my favorite, y'all know, creamed honey, Olivares. At some point, I'm gonna have to try another brand, uh, for just to see if their creamed honey is as good. But right now, I don't want anything but this. So we'll see. We shall see. All right. So that was the first talking point that I wanted to talk about. The next thing that I want to bring up is that while you're taking time to process and grow and rebuild, it can feel like everyone else is moving way ahead in their life. This was something that I felt in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, and even in my early 30s. So now I'm in my 40s, way into my 40s, right? Um, and it is still something that I absolutely can resonate with. Now, most people would think that, oh, well, Stacy, that sounds like you jealous of other people. No, no, ma'ams and sirs, that's not the case. When I say I rejoice when people find their person, when I rejoice when people, have their baby showers and have their babies and all the things, rejoice with those people. That does not mean, it does not negate the fact that that is a prayer that I've put before God for the entirety of my adult life and even some into my teen years, right? That is something, a prayer that I have prayed to have that same reality for myself. I'm not begrudging that person because I don't want their person. Right? I don't want their person. I don't know their situation. I don't know what it takes for them to be in that relationship. I don't know what they sacrifice. I don't know none of that. Don't want it. Don't care about any of that. I'm happy for them. God bless them. I'm talking about my person, right? And so when as you start to get older and in this particular situation, it felt like, to a degree, it felt like the devil was laughing in my face, right? It was like the devil was laughing in your face. See, you thought you had this thing. No, you don't. Look what I was able to take from you, right? Um, and that's a reality. That's a reality that I sat with, right? I sat with. Look, y'all. The reality is, I will never know the why. I will never know the why. I don't know that I even cared to know the why, but the why happened, right? The situation happened. Why it happened, the time frame that it happened, don't know. Probably will never fully know. But what I will say is that that feeling, it's not a competition. I'm not jealous of anybody that has their person or has that life or whatever, because that's not the life that I'm looking for. Um, God can reveal the why. God can reveal the why. God can reveal the why if He so chooses to. But I'm not. That's not something. And you're right. He absolutely can. It's not something that I spend time thinking about or, focused on in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. Um, let's see here. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. All right. So while you hold onto the power, I'm sorry. So this is the other thing. People will say, and this is a thing that I think people need to really be mindful of. People say, Stacy, just hold on to the promises of God. The promises of God are still yay and amen. Y'all, y'all. Not every single solitary thing is meant to be a scripture smack. I know the word. I know to apply the word. I get it, right? But not every single thing in every moment needs to be you saying, Stacy, I just need to let you know that God is not forgotten. Yes, I know God has not forgotten about me. I'm still breathing. So that tells you God has not forgotten about me. I still have the ability to think in my right mind, right? So I know that that means God has not forgotten about me. The fact is still the fact. The fact that I endured pain is still the fact that I endured pain. The fact that I felt like I had the dream that I have dreamt about for decades coming true and that it was snatched away from me is also the truth. That's also a very real thing. It's also a very much my life. It's still very much the situation, right? And so in knowing that, in experiencing that, the fact of the matter is we have to understand that as you're watching other people that are your peers or sometimes younger than you, because a lot of people younger than me, right? Moving forward in a direction, the human response, not the Holy Ghost response, not the Bible scripture response. The human response is, God, where is my person? Where, and it could be, where's my job? Where's my friendship? Where's my new car? Where's my new home? It may what insert whatever applies to you. I'm talking about me. Um Joined 5 seconds ago and convicted and not hey, hey, girl, how you doing? That's the reality, right? The reality is you're still sitting in a space and you're just like, okay, you know, I need this thing. I prayed for this thing. I've sacrificed for this thing. I have fasted for this thing. And y'all that know me know I do not like fasting, right? Done all these things for this thing. And God, I thought this was godly ordained. You told me that this was good for me, and now it's yanked for me. And so I'm now sitting this, I now have to sit in this space and process it. And because some people don't like watching the pain of the moment, their idea is to eliminate or do all that they can to eliminate the pain. Y'all, I get it. I love that people love on people like that, but also recognize that there's a need to get that out of your physical body. It's a need. Why? Because when people have this anxiousness or anxiety or stress, your central nervous system in your body, your actual physiology I'm talking about right now, reacts to that, right? Because people will say sometimes, this person makes me sick. No, literally, boo boo, they may be making you sick. Like they're them being sometimey, them not being a safe space to land, them being argumentative, them being chastising, them cutting you off all the time, them not giving you grace. All of those things affect your central nervous system. So it is important as you're processing a thing ending, as you're processing a painful situation, that you allow your body to process them because it needs to get out of your body. If it doesn't, that's when you have years and years and years of people that are in these emotional, painful situations and they're not free from them because they're sitting in a space where they're constantly just choking down feelings, choking down pain, choking down disappointment and hurt. So it's important for people to feel. If you see somebody crying, I get it. It can be uncomfortable. Thank you. But that's the reality. That is the reality. People need to feel the hurt. They have to, because even in the hurt is a lesson. It doesn't feel good, but even in the hurt, even in the tears that are rolling down, that's steaming down your face, there's a moment. There's a connection to, your pain being released from your physical body. And so many people, I'm telling you right now, if I was to sit here and ask you, do you have a moment that you can reflect on that you just choked down how you felt about something? And then maybe weeks later, your stomach was upset. You had digestive issues. You were stopped up or you were vomiting. I mean, people have literally had very like serious reactions to holding onto pain in their body. So it's important to let people feel what they feel. Okay. Whew. All right. The next bullet that I wrote down was when, and for those of you who just came in, we're talking about when healing makes you feel like your dreams will not happen. So you may start questioning your timeline, your goals, and even the dreams that you once believed in. Why is that real? Why is that important to remember? Because it's the truth, right? I don't care how saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled you are. You're human. And if you want to scripture this, right? Go into when God was like, "Hey," I mean when Jesus was like, "Hey God, if I don't have to go through all this Calvary stuff," and he didn't say it like that. If I don't have to go through all this, you can pass by it. Like, take this cup from me. I don't need to do all this, right? So the reality of it is, even he was like, quick question about this Calvary stuff. We still going through with this, right?" So he questioned. So if he could question God and he's the Son of God, then don't come for me. Let me question. If I need to question, let me question. Literally in therapy about this as we speak and processing past and current feelings and emotions. And I'm glad that you're doing that. Everybody knows Stacy is about Christ and the couch. Ask Christ whose couch you need to lay up on, right? Ask them who you need to have a conversation with. because processing is what you need to do for you. And there's been so much of our lives that processing has been about, how can I make sure that I don't hurt somebody else? How can I make sure that somebody else is good? How can I make sure? And if we're honest, what we're saying is, how can I make sure to decenter myself in my own life? That's literally what we've done. And now we're in a space where we're like, oh, when they say that we need to put our mask on first, like they actually meant that we need to put on our mask first. Because if we're passed out, then we can't help anybody else. But we are in a space that we have, pour it out, pour it out, pour it out, and we have nothing in our vessel. And I told y'all, it's not even about pouring out and having nothing in my vessel. Somebody stole my vessel. Like, that sucker's gone. So it's not about pouring out, pouring. I don't have a vessel to pour out of. Now, there's sometimes a God will literally say, okay, here, take this new vessel, hold on to this vessel. And it's now my responsibility, as I'm going through my healing journey, and he's given a new vessel, for me to say, whoa, I can't do it right now. Yes, okay, to you that reads as selfish, but to me it reads as a boundary, because I have to set them in order to not make sure that I go insane. I have to make sure that I'm good. And if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not pouring into myself, if I don't have my own reflective time, if I don't have a moment to think, not to do, but to think, then how am I getting to becoming the Stacy that I need to become? I don't. I don't. Whew. Okay. The other thing that people start to question, and I said this, we question our sometimes our goals, because maybe you don't call them dreams, right? Maybe you're too adult. I don't dream anymore, Stacy. That's for children. Which, first of all, the Bible says, a dream deferred makes the heart sick. So that means at some point he thought adults would be dreaming. But that's another story for another day. But the reality, even if you take that word, a dream deferred makes the heart sick. So he knew that this dream, my dream of being a wife, being deferred, was going to make me hurt. It's going to make me, quote unquote, sick, which means hurt, sad, whatever it was. It didn't mean like sick, physically necessarily, but he knew that it was going to impact me in a negative way, because that's what dreams that get pushed off and pushed off and pushed off, and you waiting and waiting and doing and praying and fasting. That's what they do. I don't care what you want. Throw any scripture at me. But that's what the word says. So you can't pick and choose. The word says it. Don't believe me? Look at it for yourself. So again, the next thing is healing. Y'all, I gotta take off my glasses because my writing has gotten atrocious. Healing can create a space where everything feels uncertain. For me, this reignites a feeling that I get when people are sometimey or inconsistent with me. So now life in this circumstance has become people. So what do I mean by that? In my life, people that are sometimey or inconsistent make me feel unsteady, right? So it's very challenging for me to have a relationship of any kind with people who are sometimey. Sometimes they're cool with you. The next day they're talking about you behind their back. Some days they give you grace. The next day they ain't got no grace for you. Like whatever it is, right? But people that are inconsistent, it makes it very challenging for you to then build a relationship, because you're always building a relationship on unsteady foundation, right? And that's not what you're supposed to be building your life. The firm foundation, which is God, right, is what you're building your life on. But as you have relational experiences with people, that's the same thing you're seeking for. I need a firm foundation. I need to know who you are. I need to know that I can trust you. I need to know that the way that I see you today, you're not going to switch up on me the next day, right? And it's not to say that people aren't allowed to go through things or have bad days, or that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about at the core of who they are. So I'm not talking about a day to day, you have a bad day and, you blow a gasket. That's not, I'm talking about the core of who a person is. But the reality is, when you're going through a space like this, when you're healing and, your dreams are kind of on hold, or you feel like, let's be honest, sometimes people are like, did my dream expire? Right? Was there an expiration date on a specific dream? And, that's when you start questioning things. And that's when you're like, okay, God, can we revisit this conversation? Because I definitely talked to you about this 50, 100 million, 11 times already. And it feels like maybe we need to come back to the table to have a little chit chat. And that's just for me, for people like me that actually have conversations with God where we question what's going on. If you don't do that, then does not apply. This does not apply to you. The next thing, which is really important, is to remember that as you're healing, you are no longer the person you used to be, but you're also not the person that you're becoming yet, right? So you're in this weird in between space, and basically existing in this in between space, or in this in between season, I guess you could say, um, is going to be a time where your dreams feel further and further away, right? So I was this person. I was Stacy, 1.0, became Stacy 1.5, 2.0, 3. I don't know what version I'm on right now, y'all. So as I continue to try to become the best version of myself and just become, right, which is just me being, which is me not being performative or not having to sing and dance for people or make people feel better about, things all the time, and be perfect. Not that I ever thought that I was, but not have to show up in just the right thing and look the right way and all the things all of the time. Y'all, that is exhausting, and it's improbable and impossible. It is impossible, because somebody's not going to be pleased with your performance of the day. Somebody's going to feel like you didn't sing and dance and jive enough for them in that moment, right? And so the reality of me walking into this new season, this in between season, is learning how to unlearn that behavior. Because I did feel as a kid I had to be a perfect way or a specific way, regardless of what environment that I was in. I had to get A's. I had to dress this way. I had to be this in the church. I had to be this over here. I had to be that over here. And now I'm just like, the reality of it is God never said I needed to be, and He never says that to anybody, right? And I'm not even saying somebody specific said that I needed to do that. It was just the feeling that I felt when I was in a variety of different spaces. And so now I'm learning that, Stacy, as you are and as you're working to be a better version of yourself for you, you are enough. You don't have to do all the things for all the people all the time. You don't have to figure it out all the time for all the people. Like, you can't. And that was never a mantle that needed to be taken on. But I feel like oftentimes, especially in the Black community, and especially, and then additionally as a female, those are mantles that are taken on. Oh, you have to be the strong Black woman, which means you need to perform at all costs, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how exhausted you are, regardless of how people have let you down, or you sat in spaces where your heart was broken, or things didn't work out on your behalf, or nobody was considering you, or nobody was prioritizing you. It does not matter. This is how you need to show up, right? And so I feel like that was something that I've done, and now I'm unlearning, because that was never something God told me to take on. Never. Um, so in that time, as you're, getting to be this thing and trying to learn the you that you want to become, sometimes these dreams that you've had for yourself, they seem to just keep getting pushed away and pushed away and pushed away. And sometimes you're wondering, but in fairness, also some of the dreams that you have had as a kid, really, as you like look at them, you're like, I don't want to do that. That is no longer a dream for me. Y'all, like, Michael Jackson was probably like my dream man. First of all, I mean, that was like the brown Michael. I mean, I still love Michael through all his iterations, right? But clearly, that is not going to be my husband, right? First of all, the man's no longer with us. But even still, that probably was never going to be my person. But that was a dream, way, way back in the day. I'm like, man, that man can sing and dance, and how he makes me feel. I just love Michael. Um, so that was a dream. Me being a lawyer was something that I just knew that I was going to do. Why? Because if you told me that I was not going to be Perina Mason, I was going to be Perina Mason. That was who I was going to be. Why? Because I was going to be able to make people crack on the stand like Perry Mason did. That's all that I wanted to do. Then I took some classes in college, and I was like, "Ooh, I hate this. I don't like anything about this. I don't like the fact that I might have to argue things that I don't believe in. I don't like the fact that this research is trash. I don't want to do any of this stuff, right?" The reality then became that, even though it had been a dream of mine, I recognized that my dream had shifted in certain regards. So it's okay for that to be your reality as well. The other thing, the last couple things that I'm just looking at the time. Okay, I have a couple more minutes. Um, the reality is that healing is not the end of your dreams. It's not the end of your dreams. Y'all, I had to put my glasses on because I see you guys typing and I can't read that and read that. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot going on. Parina Mason. Yes, Parina Mason. That's what I want to be. So healing is not the end of your dreams. Instead, it can be seen as a preparation time to have a healthier, stronger experience living, and the ability to not just get or achieve a dream, but not to fumble it. Um, I spoke to y'all. I think I've spoken to y'all about the fact that I dated this man many, many years ago that was a fantastic person. I mean, a fantastic person. But I was in a space of my life that I could not receive him because, first of all, the man was fine, 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 like next level fine, y'all. Okay, like to the point where people, when we would go places, would point out the fact that he was that fine, right? And I was very self conscious about a lot about me, right? So even though he was really tried to make me feel comfortable at all times, and he would tell me that he thought I was beautiful and all the things, and he was really nice, gentleman, respectful, but really, really great man. There's nothing I could say, and will never say anything negative about this person. But the fact of the matter is, I was in a broken period of my life, so I could not receive somebody that was like that. And I was kind of like, he's never going to stay. He's going to leave. So what I did was I deflected it and made it so, I was so busy and I'm focused on my career at that time and blah, 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 blah. And he was also changing career and has become the career that he was looking to be. But the fact of the matter is, I could not receive that person at that time. So that's also another thing is that you can get all the things, you can pray and pray and pray and pray and pray for this dream, but if you haven't prayed to prepare to receive the dream, many times we will get something that we ask God for, and He'll give it to us because He's a loving, faithful Father, right? He'll give it to us, but if you haven't made the preparation to receive it, you can fumble it, right? Or it can be really challenging the entire time you have it. So yes, do I know that sometimes God's deference or God holding something up from that you've been praying for or a dream that you really had? Do I understand logically that there may be a reason and that He wants us to be able to take this thing and be able to run with it and be able to experience it and have it and hold it and not lose it? I understand all that. Does that make it easier? Nope, not at all. Not at all. The logical me understands it. Again, we always try to apply logic to a heart position. And God made us both things. He made us logical. That's why when people say, oh, men are logical and women, first of all, that's a lie. If you had a conversation with any of these men, a lot of men are very emotional, and a lot of men are have no ability to emotionally regulate. Anger, sir, just so you have clarity, is an emotion. Anger is an emotion. Okay? So even though you're thinking tears and boohooing is no. Anger too is an emotion. Okay? So I think that a lot of times people try to just use or apply logic to a situation that was never meant to be solely logic. You connected with another human being is not just meant to be solely logical. Because if that were the case, then it would be a transaction. I'm coming to you, Cheryl, because I need something from you. That is the only reason why we're interacting. If you're looking for friendship or relationship is not meant to be a transactional experience. Are there transactional moments in that experience? 100%. But the reason why it's a heart connection is not transactional. Okay? Whew. All right. And then the other thing that I wrote is also sometimes our dreams are limited because we had different lens or scope. As we age and we gain wisdom, hopefully, right? But we absolutely will gain perspective based on what we've lived through, what we've seen others live through or endure, and that will shape what our dreams are. The same way that the dreams that we formed whenever we actually formed them were impacted by the life we were living then. Couple last things that I want to say, and these are just things as kind of thinking points for you all later. Is that one? Sometimes healing does delay things. Isn't that fantastic to hear? Yeah, I was really excited when I was writing that one down. Sometimes healing does delay things, but it also deepens you, strengthens you, and prepares you for things that you may have not been ready for before. I will say this: that was very challenging for me because I feel like I've been through many, many things. I've endured many, many things. So when I sit with that, I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna need you to clarify what it was that in this moment you felt like I needed to hear, learn, or experience. Because I do believe that the things that we go through, painful or not, are meant for us to widen our understanding, are meant for us to have clarity. It is also meant for us to share testimony. So for me, talking about my healing journey in real time, was it my ideal? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, when I first started the Sipping Tea with Stacey T, I didn't really think that I was going to be talking about my healing journey per se. I just really thought I was going to be talking about different topics that I thought would be topics that people need to hear or discuss. But as I started to speak on that first one, I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing. I felt like I was set up, y'all. I was like, because God kept putting it on my heart. Start the sipping tea. Start the sipping tea. It kept putting the that feeling. And then when I got disconnected from my job, which sounds a lot better than laid off, I didn't have a reason not to, right? And so that was the start of that. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is your dreams don't disappear because you needed time to heal. Healing may make them more meaningful. So that's something I have to hold on to, right? I knew that, healing was necessary. I knew that it was something that I had to do. Um, I didn't know that the type of healing that I was going to be going through would be about a relationship or a heartbreak. I had no idea that that was going to be something that was incorporated into this healing journey that I'm on, or this part of my healing journey, I guess you could say, that I'm on. But what I will say is that I do feel like, when God blesses me with my person, whatever that is, that it will feel more meaningful, that I will feel my heart full. I've heard people that say when they get married later in life, which at this point I fall into that category. People say when they get married later in life that they do have an appreciation for their person in a way that they may have not appreciated them before. They're able to see things, and they're able to apply grace in areas that they may have not been able to do that younger. So I'm looking forward to that being my truth, my reality. Um, and then one thing I want you all to think about for yourselves is, has your healing, has your thought about healing, has it ever made you question your dreams and if they would happen for you? And what I will say to that is that's natural if it has happened to you. And I will also say, just let God be God in your situation. I know that that doesn't take away the pain, and I'm not going to try to do that for you, right? I know that it doesn't take away the heartache. It doesn't take away sometimes the fear. And yes, I know fear is not of God. I get it, right? It doesn't take that away. But what I hope that it does is it gives you a comfort. It gives you a person that you can talk to. It gives you peace when you need it. It gives you the ability to tap into resources. And your resources that you may need are going to shift throughout the entirety of your healing journey. Some days you may need laughter. Some days you may need just to sit in a space of feeling comforted. Some days you're going to need to sit in a questioning and needing understanding and needing wisdom. Some days you're going to pull from discernment like never before. Sometimes you're going to question your ability to discern like never before. There is going to be a lot of ebbs and flows, and I'm going to tell you the only way that I would have made it through this healing journey is by me being able to tap into God on a multiple times a day basis. I won't say daily because it's all day long. It's all day long. So hopefully this was helpful to you in terms of me being very honest. Um, I did not intend. I was hoping that I did not cry, but I did, and it is okay because again, you have to feel the emotions as you feel them. You have to work through this process because even though healing does happen in context of community, the actual healing journey happens within you, and so you need to not apologize for feeling what you feel and needing to feel what you feel as you journey through. So with that, I thank you for being here for episode 10, season 2, Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Make sure I did not miss anything. Interesting how God sets things in motion. It is absolutely interesting how he does that. So I thank you all for that. Make sure that you are being kind to yourself. Be kind to others and extend to yourself first. And then to me, your girl, A Measure of Grace. I will see you next Saturday for the next installment, next episode of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Bye, everyone.